So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Caroline. I teach the Breathe class on a Wednesday. I teach the yoga for perimenopause and menopause on a Tuesday night as well, and often cover for Susie. So Susie was my very first yoga teacher 25 years ago, so that's quite a while ago. She's out tonight, living it up, so she'd asked me if I could cover this week. So we're going to be lying down. I realise some of you are in bed. I wish I was too. Actually, I should have set this up in my bedroom. But I'm going to guide you through lots of lying down shapes. So we're going to try and stretch the body out from the crown of the head to the tips of the toes, but all lying on our back. You'll know what support you might need under your head. Have as many cushions and pillows as you possibly can just around you, so that if you know you want a bit of extra support, you have it. Make sure obviously you're going to be warm, because it's going to be very slow, gentle practice. So make sure you've got your extra layers or a couple of extra blankets nearby. And when you're ready, coming down to your preferred lying down shape. If you've got a scarf or something similar, I should have mentioned, that would be really helpful. So a scarf, a yoga belt, something like that. We can use that in different forms. So we're going to come down, and I've got I realise I'm all in black, which I know is not very helpful. And I've got my sheepskin underneath me, which I got a long time ago, actually, from a local farm just outside of Edinburgh. Nice and cosy. For those of you who maybe get a little bit of dizziness, maybe suffer from POTS, make sure that your head is level with your heart. So we want to make sure that's level. If not, you may even want to find yourself propped up a little bit. So you may find that a little bit more height is more supportive, and you'll know. Take some time to make sure you feel comfortable. I'm starting with my knees bent here. You may prefer to have your legs extended. Just check if you're on the floor that your lower back feels supported. So if you are lying on the floor, you may prefer to have something under your knees to allow your lower back abdominal muscles to rest. So take a little bit of time to get comfy, to make sure you are feeling restful. And just check that you can reach any extra pillows you might have, your scarf or your belts, everything hopefully in a reasonable, reachable distance, so that if you would like to use it, you don't have to get up. So this possibility of lying down for this whole session. I will end our Zoom room at the end, so know that I will end it, so if you fall asleep, it will hopefully have turned off by the time you wake up. But really welcome to turn your camera off if you prefer. And take your time to invite your body to settle into stillness. You might like to take a moment here to know what you're doing. How does your physical body feel? So try not to overthink it, not judging in any way, just noticing if there are areas that feel maybe a bit tight or sore. And also areas that feel soft, perhaps feel relaxed. Maybe also noticing how you're feeling about a lying down deep sleep class. There might be a little bit of excitement and joy there. There might be relief. There just might be a sense of being present. Maybe even acknowledging that we're all around the world and yet connected in this session today to find deep rest. So we'll begin with taking a little bit of movement through our lips, our jaw, our tongue area. So releasing any tension here, and I'll guide you back and forth to the jaw, because sometimes we begin to allow a little bit of tension to creep in. So to begin with, you might like to open your mouth wide and stick your tongue out. Even wiggle your tongue a little bit. Perhaps you begin to roll your tongue around the inside of your mouth. So pushing into one cheek. Rolling around, and if you can, pushing into the upper lip, the lower lip. So a sense of stretching out your lower facial muscles. You may like to relax your lips. So I call this horse whinnying. So if you would like to, a couple of times, perhaps even bring a smile to your face. We know when we smile, our jaw relaxes. I'm always really welcome to smile or laugh as we come through our practice tonight. Can you begin to invite your forehead to soften? Allowing your lips to gently seal and your breath to flow in and out through your nostrils. If you feel your breath is very much in the upper body, in the upper chest at this point today, you may like to begin to encourage it to be a little bit lower. We're just making sure that we're not upper chest or shallow breathing. So it might be helpful to take a hand to the base of your rib cage or both hands and softly guide your breath low to the lowest parts of your lungs. Perhaps you also begin to think about your ribcage expanding. So you can move your hands if it's helpful to guide your breath. Hands coming to the ribcage, maybe even thumbs coming to the back of your ribcage if that feels comfortable, making sure you're not creating any tension in your shoulders. And that sense of an expansion as you breathe in and a contraction as you breathe out. As we breathe in, ribcage expanding. And as we breathe out, ribcage softening back. So as we come through a little bit of movement and stretching today, please do as much or as little as you would like to. It might be that just being in this Zoom room together with everyone finding deep rest is all you need, a sense of connection. And there might be elements that just don't feel right and you'd like to just allow your body to rest. Everything possible, invitational, doing as much or as little as you'd like to. If you feel like you can have your knees bent, feet flat on the surface you're lying on, finding this semi-supine shape if it feels comfortable for you. And applying some pressure through the feet. So I'm pushing into my feet, nothing's lifting, simply pushing into the feet. I'm feeling perhaps a little bit of rocking movement through your body. And you could take 1 or 2 pulses, you might like to keep going. So senses of pushing into our feet, this ripple effect, noticing as we connect with our feet, it affects the rest of our body. You may find this movement a little soothing, a little bit like rocking or swaying. Very subtle, very gentle. And if you are taking that gentle pulsing, beginning to find stillness once again. I'm going to take a little bit of time here to massage our ears. So for those who'd like to, doesn't matter which ear we begin with, just beginning to massage your earlobe. And then you could begin to gently, almost a sort of pinching in a gentle way of the cartilage of your ear. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. We're just slowly massaging our ear. And you could, if you'd like to, take that gently around the lower jaw and the ear area. And when you're ready, resting that arm. Likely to have a little bit of tingling in the ear you've massaged, a little bit of warmth there. And when you're ready, moving to the other side. So it might just be a few seconds, it could be a little bit longer. Starting with the earlobe and gently massaging up and around your ear area. Perhaps you take that massage into the jaw a little bit, just below your earlobe. And then when you're ready, resting your arm. Taking your time to either bring your arms out into a T shape, soft bend in the elbow, or perhaps you come into a cactus arm shape. So aiming for a really soft, gentle release, a bit more space in the shoulders, the pectoral muscles. Fingers are soft and relaxed. Making sure the whole of the arm and the shoulder is supported by the surface you're lying on. So depending on mobility, you'll know whether you need to have your arms a little bit more extended. And then beginning to bring your hands, your arms back, either to your belly or to rest on the surface beside you. So we're going to begin to try and stretch out the middle section of our back around our thoracic spine, so between the shoulder blades. So we can take the arms out slowly to the sides once again, and then bring them in for a hug. So we're taking one arm on top of the other, doesn't matter which way around. And you can decide to take hold of opposite shoulders. So a sense of almost pulling your shoulder blades apart. If you're looking for something a little bit more active, you could find eagle arms. So whichever arm is on top wraps a little bit further around. It could be the back of the hands meeting. It could be the palms meeting. Deciding how far you would like to go. Gently releasing this first side. Bring the arms out to the sides again. As you bring your arms in for a hug, making sure it's a different arm on top. Either taking hold of opposite shoulders, allowing your arms to fully rest. Or perhaps you're looking for something a little bit stronger, so the arm on top begins to wrap around and try and meet the other hand. So with all the movements and shapes we're coming through tonight, be a slightly more active version, slightly more restful, passive version. So working with what you would like to this evening, listening to your body and being guided by your body and its energy today. Taking your time to gently release your arms, resting them back down. Sometimes if you've taken the eagle arms, there's a little bit of tingling, maybe even a little bit of pins and needles. So we'll allow that to soften, melt away. Inviting your jaw to be soft. Breath still flowing in and out through your nose. So the next shape and movement we're going to come to are the arms extending behind our head. So we're reaching away. And if you feel your arms can rest here, maybe you've got a little bit of support or some cushions, they can just rest. That in itself can be quite strong. So have that in mind. So one option here. Another option is to use a scarf or a belt. This can help support our shoulders and use a little bit of flowing movement. So we're only going to take 4 rounds. You might want to take 1 round. My hands are about shoulder width apart. And then I'm very slowly reaching back. Soft elbows. Finding a bit of a stretch or a sensation of a stretch, and then bringing the arms back. If you'd like to take a few more rounds and integrate your breath, you could breathe in as you take the arms overhead. And you could breathe out as you bring your arms back to your starting position. So a maximum of 4 to 6 with any of the movements and shapes we're taking. Helping to soften into our shoulder joint. Maybe even find a little bit of a sensation of stretch down the sides of the ribs. And when you feel ready, coming back into stillness. So I'm going to move down a little further. We're going to begin to find a twist. So I'm going to take my knees to the right hand side to begin with. I've got a big cushion here that my knees are going to come towards. We want to make sure as we come into a twist, the knees are fully supported. So I would like to recommend having some cushions, pillows, whatever you have, even if you know your knees go to the floor quite easily. A little bit of softness and support. From here, I'm going to bring my knees in a little, coming off the ground, off the surface, and I'm rolling my knees towards my right hand side. They are fully grounded, fully supported, knees stuck together. So that might even mean rolling over to your right hand side a little more. And then maybe you encourage your left shoulder to come back down towards the floor. You could extend your arm if that feels possible. Final step, if you'd like it, is turning to gaze over your left shoulder. So your knees could be resting on one pillow. It could be a stack of pillows, making sure they are fully supported. Maybe you become aware of your jaw, making sure it still feels soft and relaxed. We're going to begin to slowly think about changing sides. So an initial thought, it's almost as if we're trying to muster the energy to change sides. Bringing your knees back to center when you feel ready. You might like to allow your feet to come down to rest for a moment. And before you come to the left-hand side, make sure you have any support that you're going to be using on this side. And it's likely maybe to be different on this side. So you could bring your knees in a little bit, drop your knees down towards the left-hand side, again, making sure they're stacked, they're fully resting. Maybe that involves rolling onto your side a little bit. Perhaps then you extend your right arm away. See how that feels. There's always the possibility of having the arm a little bit lower rather than in a T shape. Explore it if it feels strong. And that final possibility of taking your gaze over your right shoulder. Soft jaw, soft shoulders, soft breath. If you're still here in the twist, beginning to think about moving. The initial thought helping our mind and our body connect. And then when you feel ready, slowly coming back to center. And you may like to extend your legs away if you haven't already. So a sense of finding full rest. Arms could rest down beside you. So as I mentioned earlier, really welcome to find stillness, to find rest here. We're going to begin to work through our hips. So if you would like to, we're going to imagine we're coming into tree, for those who are familiar with tree. We're going to imagine our left foot is our standing foot, so flexing the left foot. A bit of activity and movement for the left leg. And I'm going to begin to bring my right knee up and allow my right knee to fall out towards the right hand side. Now there's two options here. We could support the knee like we did with our twist. We could also allow the left foot to relax, so it's a little bit less effort. Or perhaps your right hip feels quite tight, and so another option, if you have the energy today, is to gently allow the knee to come in and fall out. So bringing a little bit of movement into the right hip area. So deciding here where you'd like to be. Perhaps you eventually find stillness here. Bring your awareness to your breath, encouraging it to be soft, gentle. Wherever you are on this side, slowly easing out. So beginning to invite your right knee back to center if you haven't already. Right leg extending out. Finding rest for a few breaths here.
We're going to take the same shape on the other side. So you may like to imagine your right foot is at a standing leg for a moment. So flexing your right foot to bring a little bit of activity to the right leg. Beginning to draw the left knee in a little and rolling the left knee out towards the side. So we're coming into a tree shape here. Perhaps you support your left knee to fall out and rest. You could then begin to rest your right foot. So allow the right foot just to soften. You could also bring the left knee up and out and bring some floating movement. So sometimes a little bit of movement invites a softening, especially if it feels tight around the hips. Perhaps you just prefer to come to stillness. So easing one hip at a time today. This can be helpful because we know we're not symmetrical. We know often one side feels a little bit tighter or restricted. Sometimes we have an injury on one side. So an invitation to soften into each hip individually. Give it a little bit of care and nurture. We're going to begin to come back to center. So if you are still in your lying down tree shape, beginning to draw the knee back to center, extend the leg. And find rest here for a few breaths. We're going to begin to work with the lower body, the legs a little here. Welcome to stay as you are. For this next part, we're going to have our feet grounded, knees bent. And we're going to find the outside of our right foot coming to the front of the left thigh. This might be just right here. No need to go any further, any deeper. Option, if you would like it, is to take the right hand, gently push the inner right thigh, trying to avoid the knee. Gently pushing that away. Maybe for a couple of breaths here. Easing a little more into the right hip. No more than 4 to 6 breaths. And gently releasing. If you are taking this shape in your own time, changing sides. So the outside of your left ankle coming to the front of your right thigh. If you would like to go a little bit deeper, left hand coming to the inside of your left thigh. A little bit of force there, pushing it away gently. Releasing the left side if you haven't already. The left foot coming back down to the surface you're lying on. And one final stretch here for the legs before we soften into the head and neck and find stillness. So if you would like to stretch your hamstrings, the back of your legs, this is where a belt or scarf can be really helpful. We're going to place the belt or the scarf around the ball of our right foot, sliding the hands all the way down. So elbows are resting on the floor, so the shoulders, the arms don't have to do much work. You can keep the knee bent, heel reaching up towards the sky, toes coming towards your face. If you know you want to go a little bit further, or if it feels possible to go a little bit further, you could extend your leg up towards the sky. 1 or 2 breaths might be enough here. We're going for no more than 4 to 6. So if you can, counting your own breath. We've all got very different breathing rates and rhythms, so making sure you're working with yours here. Eventually releasing your right leg, unhooking the belt or the scarf, and allowing your body to rest here for a moment. So as we take a movement or a stretch, we're coming into the active side of the nervous system. And then as we take rest, we're coming into this passive rest and digest side of the nervous system. So always inviting our body to come to rest after a stretch, a shape, a movement. If you're taking the hamstring leg stretch in your own time, beginning to move to your left hand side, belt scarf coming to the ball of your left foot. You can, having your arms, your hands sliding down, so the elbows, the arms don't have to do too much work. Heel reaching up towards the sky, toes towards your face. That might be enough, or perhaps you begin to stretch your leg up. Back of the hip here, very much on the floor, so I haven't lifted up. It's very much grounded. Holding for as long as you feel comfortable to. No more than 4 to 6 breaths here. Eventually easing out when you're ready. Popping your scarf, your belt to one side. And you may like to draw your knees in for a hug here. So you could make it a gentle knee hug and a gentle falling away. Helpful to ease the lower back. You might like to take a little bit of circling movement as well. Maybe a couple of circles in one direction. And a couple of circles in the opposite direction. If you'd like to, a little bit of movement through the feet, pointing and flexing. Maybe even spreading your toes. You could take some circles here. Eventually coming to rest. I'm going to take some very gentle movements through the head and neck to help us ease into relaxation, perhaps even to sleep. So making sure you are warm. In your own time, beginning to turn your head towards the right-hand side. And then very slowly over towards the left-hand side. Coming back to center. Couple more movements for those who would like to take them. Tucking your chin towards your chest. And then taking your head towards the right-hand side. So the chin's remaining tucked towards the chest. Slowly coming through center, chin still tucked. And then over to the left. Coming slowly back to center. And then one final movement, if you'd like to take it. Chin's moving up towards the ceiling. Back of the head still supported. And beginning to roll your head towards the right-hand side. Easing your head back to center. And then over towards the left-hand side. Eventually bringing your head back to center. Finding the center of the back of your head resting. A sense of your spine in alignment. Maybe there's a softening through your jaw. One final stretch. Bring your awareness to your right foot, your right calf muscle, the back of your right thigh. Inviting your right leg to melt a little more into the surface you're lying on. Becoming aware of your left foot, your left calf, the back of your left thigh, and inviting your left leg to soften and melt a little deeper onto the surface you're lying on. Bringing your awareness to your hips and your glutes. Inviting them to soften a little more. So lower back, mid back, upper back and shoulders. Inviting them all to soften and to melt a little more into the surface you're lying on. Bringing your awareness to your right arm, upper arm, lower arm, hands and fingers. Inviting your right arm to fully relax. And to your left arm, upper arm, forearm, left hand and fingers. Inviting your left arm to fully relax. Jaw soft. Forehead softening. Maybe you quietly say to yourself, I am rested. Taking as much time as you can here to fully rest and relax. Or perhaps fall asleep.
I'm going to end our Zoom room here. Rest well, everyone.